Hello innovators, I hope everyone is doing well on this fine weekend, and I presume many of you are following the break of all-time highs of Bitcoin yet again. Now, I know it's been a while. I sincerely apologize for not posting too much on the YouTube side, especially regarding cryptocurrencies. However, we are going to be back in full swing from pretty much this video onwards. We've got Forex content coming, Forex lessons, crypto course lessons. We've got property content, we've got market breakdowns. We've got so much in store for you guys. I cannot wait to start bringing all this content forward with myself and Bernie. Now, the reason for those of you asking why I haven't actually been too active on the cryptocurrency side is because, quite frankly, as many of you know, I've just been taking a step back from the cryptocurrency market ever since we took some profit on XRP, ever since we're waiting for potential pullbacks. And for those of you who are in the Innovation members group, you would have known we also took some profits on ZRX following our $1.7 to $1.8 target. So I've been pretty much just chilling, sitting back and waiting for what I believe is going to be the inevitable. Now, I think it's very important to discuss this in this video. And again, the purpose of this overall market breakdown isn't to try and pick a selective top and try and find the market peak, or even to easily identify where it's going to the upside. It's more of, as usual, a rational, logical and fairly non-biased approach to absolutely everything, because you guys know I'm not actually in Bitcoin, so I feel it personally gives me a much easier way to identify it without the emotional attachment to BTC, because as we know, for anyone invested in BTC, they're not looking to consider that all of this could change very, very soon. Now, if we look at the current situation in the market, as we know, euphoria is getting incredibly high. And for someone who's kind of warning people, especially new people in the market, there's two ways to identify this. There's people who are already invested in the market. And if we go to BTC on the weekly, we need to just kind of put things in perspective once and for all. Now, as you guys know, I've been calling for a bear market and a potential crypto crash for quite a while now, and I still absolutely stick to everything I believe. I'm just not here to try and call that perfect top, but I am here to call that bottom that I've been predicting for a while, and I do just believe it's a matter of time before this inevitably happens. That's why I've just been sitting aside. I'm still making gains on my main portfolio, which I'll be getting into a second. I've still got the XRP from the buy-in that I showed you guys, and I'll be showing you those holdings in a second as well. Been accumulating my fiat, ready to potentially invest more in any form of market correction that comes. But it's very important to understand that right now there's two real types of people. There's people that have invested in the market, maybe even three types of people. Those who have been long-term investors from all of these prices and are now seeing enormous and incredible gains. We've got those of us who are potentially taking some profits out of the market, some of those who are buying right now, and some of those who are sitting on the sidelines. Now, first things first, before we get into some of the people like myself who are invested and taking profits or just invested in holding on certain holdings, I personally feel straight off the bat, for those who are not invested in the cryptocurrency market right now, I don't care how much higher this goes. I think the incredible and ever-growing risk of continuously investing, especially in Bitcoin, at this present point in time is very, very dangerous. If you are not currently invested in the market, even from a dollar cost averaging perspective, the higher this goes, we know there is of course going to be an inevitable correction at some point. That's why I personally feel it doesn't matter when it happens, just knowing that it will likely happen, as historically it has happened every single time, there is no interest for me to continue growing or accumulating or dollar cost averaging my holdings into this market. And that's someone who is making money from this market going up. But besides that, I wouldn't put additional risk into my investments from buying further. But for those people who are not involved in the market, I think the brutal, honest truth is you've kind of missed out on this current movement, and it's probably better to just not get involved for the sake of getting involved. Because quite frankly, even if you did invest here or you did invest here and you invested here and it has gone a bit higher, and even if it does continue going higher, the fact of the matter is the majority of market participants with Bitcoin worth $60,000 approximately, they're not going to be investing enough to really see the maximum potential from the moves that have already been made. As we've seen right now, influencers, every Tom, Dick and Harry, and even people who have no clue about cryptocurrency at all, are really pushing that narrative strongly again. And if we just kind of reflect back to 2017, when the ICO craze started kicking off, we're now seeing the exact same situation occurring, but with the NFT craze, which in my opinion is just another gimmick. I like to be very simple. I like to keep things simplistic, and I kind of stick to even the majority of altcoins that I've been calling since 2017 and following their progress. And we'll get into alt season in this as well. But I just think it's so important and it's very sensible for someone that does potentially have a little bit of influence, or for someone who does potentially have people listening to their decision making. I feel for anyone that's in an influential position of, not that I necessarily am, but there are celebrities out there that are showing phenomenal returns on cryptocurrencies. They're showing millions in profit. That's because they're investing millions into the market to achieve these kind of returns. If you are investing a few $100s or a few $1,000s in these market prices at the current price of Bitcoin in particular, your returns are not going to be that significant. And to see even 100% return, which altcoins can much easily and quicker provide you, you're not going to see that unless Bitcoin goes to $120,000. So you need to think about this logically. And just because the market's going up and everyone says, oh my God, it's never going to go down, you're missing out on gains, blah, blah, blah. Quite frankly, the higher this keeps going, whether you invested here, or even 30K, you have made some money. It could go up, you could make some more money. But the higher this goes, the larger the downside risk is evidently coming into play. Because quite frankly, there are trend lines still in play here. Let me just get that back up to how it should be, around there. There are trend lines in play, and this is why I'm still very, very confident that the possibility of 8K or 10K and below is still a massive likelihood, because I've been here for many, many years now, and I've seen this happen time and time again. Doesn't matter how high a market goes, it can still inevitably correct the entire way. Something we saw with GameStop, which wiped out a lot of people. So I just feel, which probably the most important topic is, if you have missed out on a lot of these cryptocurrency pumps, do not be enticed by everybody saying you're missing out on this, you're missing out on that. There is no harm in sitting aside, because quite frankly, if you are watching from an outside perspective, because I'm not holding any more BTC, I just look at it and go, if I was to buy here, the downside risk is very possible down there, but then the upside risk of potentially doubling your money is obviously up there as well. But then it's almost a 50-50 gamble. If we go to a 100% return from where we currently are, and I kind of put this in perspective, if you were to look at this from a trading perspective of risk to reward, quite frankly, it's not whether it was a margin trade or a leverage trade or not. There is no logic in this for me, in continuing to buy something that's pumping. If you are already invested and you've bought at the lows, then absolutely, there's no harm whatsoever in looking to potentially buy some more to add to your holdings. But even then, is it really worth it when you know something's been going up for a very long time? And something I keep seeing is this is just the beginning. The latest craze at the moment is the whole stimulus side, 1.9 trillion, everyone's going crazy. Imagine that's going to go into crypto, blah, blah, blah. But who says it's going to go into cryptocurrency? If anything, it's even more dangerous now that we have a lot of people being blinded into investing at something that's just continuously pumping for an instant gratification fix to make some short-term money. And I think the most toxic problem here is people are looking to catch a train that is going higher and higher and higher without any profit-taking goals in mind. And we all know the general majority of people are not going to take profits. Those unrealized gains are not going to remain as actual gains. It's never real until it physically hits your bank account. That's exactly why I took those profits off of XRP and showed you guys, because no matter what happens now, which is something I'll get into in a minute, I have money in the market. That was the side portfolio, the little buy from March. I have my main portfolio where I'll gradually be taking some extra profits out along the way. But people are telling me this is just the beginning, this is not the bull run. And if we just go to this monthly candle perspective, how anyone can physically say from March 2020 to the present date, exactly 1 year later, that we are not in a bull run and we have not seen a bull run is beyond me. It is beyond disbelief. And quite frankly, this is where the more we evaluate the psychology of the average market participant, we start to realize that people are truly on the border of delusion. Because even if it does go higher and higher and higher, the short-term gains that people are likely going to be making from investing at these prices, they're not going to actually take the profits from anyway, because we know they want to hodl, they want more. And most people who are investing money, they're not making enough money from these movements, which is why people are so desperately praying for 100k BTC, 200k, 500,000 or 1 million BTC, because it's going to then potentially give them that life-changing sums they're looking for. But even then, can every single person who is blindly invested because everyone's promised them that Bitcoin's going to go to the moon, are those who control the market, are the governments and banks, for example, and all of the influential figures that do have a significant role in life and the financial system, are they just going to allow every single person who's invested a few hundred or a few $1,000s to go and end up becoming multimillionaires, or at least getting close to millionaire status from this single investment? We've seen it time before. It continuously happens. And if anything, before we do start going higher, eventually, before we start achieving those true moon targets that everyone's believing, this is moon, in my opinion. $60,000 for one Bitcoin is insane. And that definitely is the case. And I said that here, I said that at 16K, it was really crazy. But as we've just got higher and higher and higher, I feel very satisfied knowing I have altcoins making me money in the side. And I don't really feel the need to be jumping on board Bitcoin right now. And it's the same for anything really. Ether, for me, does have the potential to go higher. LTC, Ether, and BTC are moving pretty similar in line with each other. But I just feel it's very dangerous to be getting newcomers into the market right now. And that is coming from someone who is invested in the space, someone who, quite frankly, could easily be telling people, just join my service, I will show you how to make loads of money. This is someone literally telling you, you don't really want to be jumping on board right now because a lot of the move has already happened. Even if it does go a bit higher, you know, a lot of the move has already happened. And even if it does go higher, people won't be taking those profits. So even if you make those short-term returns, you're inevitably going to get annihilated, because we know at the bare minimum, a realistic, even taking away the fact that I believe $10,000 or below is going to come through, $20,000 is a more than realistic target. That was one of the last all-time highs broken. We retested and came down. So even if we came down back to 20K, and then we continued on our merry way up to 100K plus, anyone buying anywhere above these levels are inevitably going to lose a significant portion of their investments. And it's very important people realize this. It's very easy being manipulated and jumping on the euphoria train and going, oh my God, the profits will never end. Or people always tell me, you're just jealous you missed out. Well, that's actually not true, because I've been buying from early prices. I was even long on BTC from very early prices, which is actually why I took a few of those BTC shorts at 16K. And people must think I'm still holding on to them shorts or something, but it's the overall perspective of people, and a lot of people you can't change, you can't try and convince them. So there's no point trying to explain that side too well. But I know, regardless whether this goes up or down, I continuously make money, and quite a lot of it, to be honest with you, doing exactly what I do in a very simple manner. You don't want to overcomplicate things, you don't want to make it complex. But looking at BTC on the current monthly time frame, remember, a lot of people are saying, look at the monthly bullish candle, how can we ignore this? But the truth is, it closes in 18 days, and a lot can change in a day, let alone 18 days. Now, something I covered with the innovation markets community yesterday, if I just go back to what we're seeing here with this rally, we did form a double top on BTC, which I believed was a bit of trickery, because again, overall, the momentum is bullish. We cannot disregard that. There is something that's on my mind right now, which is this trend line over here, which BTC has broken and could likely come back towards that 62 to 64K region to come in and retest. We may see a little cheeky retest of 58,000 first before we see this movement higher. But I am currently using this trend line as a bit of guidance as to where BTC may potentially be heading next, because we've broken and it's inevitable we're going to see a retest, hopefully. So if we go to the 4-hour perspective over here, something I covered yesterday was this channel that formed on BTC. If we plot that up to there, I did state when we were at around this region that we were going to wait for that 4-hour candle closure, because we saw the third retest, the forced manipulative move through the trend line, and we closed back below, closed back above, sorry, this particular level here. So as you can see, despite the wicks, this is something I've covered in the crypto course lessons for you guys as well, the candle bodies did remain above this particular support floor of around $56,400. So the fact is, price remained within this level, and by plotting a Fibonacci from A to B, we can see we pinpoint tapped the 78.6 fib, which does, of course, if you've been following the lessons, we've already done the Fibonacci lesson for the members. This will be available on YouTube very soon as well in due time. Normally, the minus 61.8% extension is more of a possibility when we see the 78.6 met. So it was almost inevitable following this Fibonacci sequence that BTC would in fact break beyond these all-time highs. And I did cover $60,200 as the upside target in the innovation group, and quite frankly we drove pretty much straight into this level following that huge breakout candle. But as I did also mention, there's the opposing side to this. Not to mention we've fulfilled the top of this channel now, so we may see another retest to fill this target, which is what I'm looking for. Anywhere from around $60,800 to around $61,000 is what I'm keeping in mind at the moment for the next push higher, which could then push BTC back down to fulfill the next leg of this channel. Now, what's very important to note, once this channel was obviously completed, we go up, down, tap the channel, potentially come down to the next leg of the channel. If this was to be the case, and this is why we need to wait for the weekly candle closure, which of course is in 1 day and 7 hours. And I'm going to show you exactly why that is the case now. Because even though we have seen the break of all-time highs, with this euphoria of the stimulus and all of this stuff, just because all-time highs are broken doesn't mean it's going to continue going higher and higher and higher. We need to be level-headed, sit back and wait for certain confirmation signals first. Because with that daily candle closure and the weekly candle closure fast approaching, and this Fibonacci sequence that's been fulfilled, this area is a big area of interest for me. Whether it does hit that channel or not, the trend line above, we do not know just yet. But this is also a very important thing to notice. The reason I am not being too bullish, you see a lot of experts at the moment, guys, 60K next, 70K, 80K, they are purely guessing. It's not hard to predict upside targets when price is only going up, and there's no historical price action to base these ideas off. So when people are giving upside targets of 70, 80, 60, whatever it may be, there's no, if we zoom out for a second, there's nothing here telling us where it's going to go next. There's no confirmation of this. As you can see quite clearly from a monthly perspective, from the point we really broke out of this $20,000 all-time high, we do not have the historical price action to give us at least some form of clarity or confluence on where price may potentially be heading next. So in all honesty, these people are guessing because they want it to go higher, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to a level. If I called, like I did yesterday, $60,200, that was because there was a Fibonacci back in this decision. But to be honest with you, it takes no skill to do that. That's why I'm not necessarily proud of doing that, because anyone can do that. It's not hard to say it's going to go higher when it is only going higher. But what we can base a lot of our information off is the historical price action of where we've been before and where we haven't retested since breaking out. That's why at the bare minimum, I feel 20K is easily achievable, and that would ruin a lot of euphoria that we're currently witnessing. But if we do go to the weekly candle closure, one thing that's possible with this Fibonacci sequence as well is we have formed obviously the level of resistance here. And if you have watched the cryptocurrency course lessons, you would have seen how I kind of express the battle between the bulls and bears. And if I quickly change the candlestick color to a strong red or pink, we can easily explain this further so you guys can understand what I'm saying here. Now, the general rule of thumb is, especially with a huge weekly bearish engulfing candle like this, it's normally a telltale sign that selling pressure is coming in quite drastically. And what normally happens during these incidents is all of the bulls that have been buying up this momentum, those being the whales and the institutional larger players, they are seeing this as a telltale sign that there could be some very dangerous pressure starting to come into play. A huge candle like this is often a telltale sign of chaos that may follow. So what a lot of these bullish individuals do, or those, let's just say the bulls, when they are pushed back down, and we'll use this as a potential wall or a fortress. This is the bear's fortress, which we will make the same color. The bulls have come up to take on the bear's fortress, and the bears have pushed them the whole way down. So what this means is those bulls have potentially either lost some money, whether they're holding stop losses down here or whether they're just catching quick moves. A lot of those bulls will use this telltale sign as a way to try and push price back up to recoup any of those losses from the downside movement and try and bring price back to where it was at least or even higher, to then recoup some of those losses, either make a bit of profit and then potentially join forces and switch over to join the bears. This is why the weekly candle closure is absolutely crucial in 1 day and 7 hours, because we have broken all-time highs. But if the weekly candle closes within this region, things can change very, very quickly. It may not be a full market collapse, but it can be a very big telltale sign that the bulls are slowly running out of steam. As we saw here with the bearish candles, they just wicked, but they kept continuing higher. But with this huge bearish engulfing, one that we haven't really seen for a very long time now, since the 2017 December collapse, which is very similar as we can see here. The only difference is we've actually gone a bit higher this time. So that's why I'm being very neutral in this analysis. I'm not here to call either, but I am looking at these potential telltale signs over here of what would happen if the weekly candle closure did come back below. This would show the bears have yet again pushed price back down, and the bulls may slowly, after attempting to potentially push through a few more times, get out and realize the warning signs are clearly evident at the moment. So that's one thing that's really getting my curiosity at the moment on BTC. It's just very important, guys, to just be aware. If you are someone who is invested in this market and you have been investing from these prices, when people say this is not a bull run, even with the colored candlesticks we can see here that I've clearly labeled, there has been no bearish candlestick since September the 1st, 2020 on a monthly time frame. This obviously means at some point it's going to happen again. Look at history. It's all bullish. Then the minute a single bearish candle comes, everything changes, and that has happened every single time. So it's inevitable at some point a bearish candle is going to come. Now, if you are one of those individuals involved in BTC in particular, and you have been investing from the lows, you should be considering slowly taking some profits out of the market. No one wants to get out of the market 100%. And I personally agree with that myself. I would never get out of the market 100%. You want to have exposure in the market at all times in the event price does go higher. But you also want to be thinking realistically here. No other market is providing returns on investment like this. So even if you are taking a gradual 5% or 10% every few steps of the way, you are slowly getting yourself out of the market and securing those profits in the worst case scenario. And it's a win-win situation. The problem is with people, they all want the moon. They all want instant riches, eternal riches, and they all want to become multimillionaires from just holding a cryptocurrency. But you need to be logical. The same as GameStop, how everyone kept held in. Granted, it did return, but you need to be careful with what you're doing here. This is, in my opinion, a fairly few once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that will continue presenting themselves in cycles. And every market moves in cycles. It will not go up forever. And anyone saying that is just trying to entice people to probably join their service or some form of other community they've got going. And you have to be very realistic. Anyone involved in this space is just continuously pushing the same ideologies, but everything could easily change in a heartbeat, and we need to be very, very careful. There's no harm, and I think the problem is as well, people think psychologically, let's just say you had 3 Bitcoin or 5 or 6 Bitcoin and you sell all the way up, you've ended up selling like 3 or 4 Bitcoin and you've still got 1 or 2 Bitcoin left in the market. People feel like if it does go higher, they've then missed out. But to be completely realistic, you're still making money. And if you've caught the majority of this move, you should not feel bad for taking profits out of the market. There is no such thing as real profits until the profits are sold. Unrealized gains are not real profits, and people need to realize this. For someone like myself, who has a longer term portfolio that only very gradually gets a few profits taken out of the market, I tend to leave everything. But the most important part is when you are taking profits out of the market, you still want to be leaving something in the market. And that's why when we go over to Kraken and we refresh this over here, we can see the XRP balance. This is probably the best way to explain it, and we'll be going over the XRP side as well for you guys in a second. The XRP, if we go to Kraken Pro and we open this up very quickly, and then we go over to XRP USD, I'm going to put this in perfect perspective, and I've actually shown you guys this already, to be fair, but I think it's very important to refresh all of you on what I mean by doing this, and why, if you have managed to capture these movements, if you have been one of these lucky individuals to capture this movement, to go from anywhere from these regions up to $60,000, and for this to not be enough for you, that should show you are already being consumed by greed. Greed and the markets do not go together very well. Because if you're continuously hodling and grabbing on for dear life and just looking for the next high, the next high, the next high, eventually at some point that next high is going to come, or not going to come. It may come and come and come, and then it will stop. So you need to think about this in a rational perspective. If you are invested, when that moment comes where the high no longer arrives, everything can change in a split second. And then you need to think to yourself, if this was right now, anyone saying it's not possible is obviously very deluded as well. If this was to start pulling back to 40, 30, 20 or 10k, you need to ask yourself at that point in time, after riding such a phenomenal and profitable and incredible movement that no other market has really ever seen, if this was to come the whole way back down and you didn't take any profits, would you truly be happy with yourself? Would you truly be satisfied knowing you hodled, because everyone says hodl, only to achieve absolutely nothing in the end before the next movement higher? We are all here for a long term. To be a long-term investor means holding for years. But long-term investors, even the most successful stock investors, they take profits, they wait, they sell their shares, and they await pullbacks, or they slowly liquidate their holdings over time to then shift into either the next market correction. They go short to hedge their positions as well, something I done with BTC. Whilst the longs were making money, I took a few shorts, they didn't work out. Who cares? I still made 1,000 times that since it's gone up. But you need to think about this. It's very easy to say, yeah, if it pulls back, I'll just keep buying more, I'll buy the dip. But you're not truly making money in that matter. You're then accumulating a position that's going from unrealized gains to then back to break even or even a potential loss, especially if you've been buying here. And this is what I'm trying to push forward to those who are not invested now. Do not be enticed by what everyone's telling you. It doesn't matter if it goes higher. You must be patient, and quite frankly, when you have missed a movement like this, the last thing you want to be doing is jumping on board here for short-term gains, because everyone said it's going to go to $120,000 next or 100k next, which it may do. But are you going to take profits if it does go there? You may say you will, but then you're going to be blinded, because if it goes to 100k, they'll want 110k next, then they'll want 120, then they'll want 130, and eventually no one makes any actual money. Now this is a perfect example on XRP. The reason I've shown you a continuous buy, and remember, you can still have a long-term portfolio but have some additional buys and sells purely for the sake of making additional money in the market and taking some profits. So what you can always do is have a long-term portfolio to hold, and at the same time having some additional buys on the side that you're looking to actually take some profits out of the market from. The reason I'd done this XRP movement, and the reason I showcased this during the pump and dump, the orchestrated pump and dump of XRP, was because I had a very strong feeling this was not going to be the case. They're not going to let you make that money so quickly. And it was very funny watching the YouTube comments yet again, people saying they've unsubscribed, like I've ruined their gains by taking profits, and that just shows people were so invested emotionally in pumping their bags to the moon. It shows a lot of people have invested very small sums and they are just hoping for that moonshot to change their life. But we cannot go into any investment. Even though I've invested significant sums in XRP and many other altcoins, it doesn't mean I do not accept the possibility that every single investment I make could potentially not work out. And that's why it's always about being level-headed and understanding it doesn't matter how much we research something, how much we invest, how much we believe. The market does not care for your beliefs, wants or needs. The market is not there to care for you and provide for your every need. The market will do whatever it wants. And it's down to us to try and capitalize off whatever the market does next. So when the situation came, if we go over here to Kraken, we can see the buy from March. When I slowly took them positions out, it wasn't about being correct. As you can see, they were not perfect, those sells. Price went even higher. Price then dips lower. I bought again. It went lower than my buy temporarily. When the pump and dump XRP orchestration happened, I took profits here. This was not perfect, and it doesn't have to be. You do not need to catch the perfect top and bottom. The fact of the matter is, you are in this market very likely to make money, and potentially many people are here to make life-changing sums. But you are not going to do that if you are never taking and capitalizing off those life-changing returns on investment when they are being presented to you. We all feel like we are missing out if we sell and then price goes higher. But I personally believe if you have invested and you have made a profit, especially when you're seeing 100% plus returns on investment that no other market is truly providing, is this not enough for us people? Why do we continuously need more? We should learn to understand and express gratitude that the market is providing beautiful opportunities to make money. Yes, you may potentially miss out on some more profits, but who cares if you're already making money and you're still leaving some in the market? as we can see here, I slowly liquidated those positions. We had 23,000, we had $9,000, we had almost $13,000, we had $163, $7,600, and $4,600. When it pushed higher, I didn't think, oh no, it's over, I've missed out on loads of money. I thought, hold on, I've turned this to this. And then when it dipped down again, I bought again during, again, the SEC news. Everyone said the SEC news was cause of it, but the markets are manipulated, quite frankly, especially XRP. SEC news was more than just a ploy to drive price lower. That's why I had this area in mind. Had no idea about the SEC news, but I just knew this level was very interesting. Then when it pumped again during the XRP pump and dump, you need to think and do the opposite of what 99% of people are doing. The whole world was trying to capture the XRP pump and dump, which told me all of those people would start buying when the XRP pump was announced. I would then take my profit. It went a bit higher. Did I feel bad for missing out? Absolutely not, because I then massively increased those holdings from here and then took 50%. Now this is interesting. This is the most important part. You will note that after turning 219,000 XRP into 450,000 XRP here, when I invested that 450,000 XRP back into the market, when it went up to here this time, I did not close all of it out. I actually closed out 50% of that position, which still turned my initial investment of $30,000 to $103,000 at the present time of speaking. On top of that, I had $150,000 left remaining in the market, available on the side. That is pure profit as well. Essentially, all of it is pure profit from that 30k investment. So I've got my money back. The money is also secured. Plus, I've got fiat in the market. And as you can see, we've added another $35,000 to invest in some new altcoins, which will obviously, or even some older altcoins when the prices are correct. And we'll be showing that in the innovation markets community once I potentially transfer this out of Kraken. Now, as we can see in total, from $30,000 to here, this is great. But if I did not have the USD balance here, if I didn't take profits, none of this matters, because it's not real until it's physically available. None of this XRP profit right now is technically real until it's all sold and back in my account, until I can physically bring it back into my bank account. Yes, some people will argue crypto's the revolution, we'll be using it as forms of payment soon, but in this present day, let's just forget all of this revolutionary dreaming malarkey and let's just be realistic with ourselves. Again, coming from someone involved in this market, there is nothing better than having real profits and actually capitalizing off your hard work of investing. Even if it wasn't hard work and you invested blindly, that's an even better reason to consider taking some profits. And this is what I was discussing for you guys who are in a similar position to me, who have invested and may have taken some profits or may have been stuck on the edge of whether you've taken some profits. Look at it this way. If you have made more than what you've invested, there's nothing wrong with taking profits, because I am now in a win-win situation. Yes, this is no longer 450,000 XRP, but if this goes against me and goes higher, because I obviously want this to go lower to trigger a buy order, which I have set. If this goes higher, I still make money regardless. If it goes lower, I now have capital to either dollar cost averaging or buy back in a single crash if price was to go back lower. Do not feel discomforted with the fact you may not have your entire holdings anymore. You need to find comfort and you need to find gratitude in the fact that you have money, you've taken profit, you are a winner. I cannot physically lose now in this situation because I have made profit and I have secured it. If you are just holding on and all of this was theoretically on a blockfolio balance, it's not real. And people need to wake up to this. We need to start paying attention and understanding eventually. Remember, everyone's an expert now because this is going up. Look at how many communities are popping up for cryptocurrency now. How many people are overnight experts? Because it's easy to be an expert here. And that's why after 2017, when all those experts popped up, they all went missing again when the market crashed. Because any person who has never invested in their life can start saying, guys, I think BTC, when it's at $20,000, is going to go to $22,000 next. And that's what people are doing now. My next target is 60,400, 6162. Any person can do that because you're blindly just going up there with no logic because the market's going up. This is a major bull trend. And I'm not actually saying to get out 100%. I'm using my real life example to show you guys why you can have the best of both worlds and you shouldn't feel disheartened for taking profit, because as long as you are making money, especially in a pandemic. What a crucial time in the world, such a devastating time where people are suffering. We're talking about stimulus checks, for example. The fact people genuinely believe all of that stimulus money is going to go into cryptocurrency, this is all of that bullish euphoria, maximalism talk to entice people to buy. Who says these people are going to use their stimulus checks, unless they're fairly stupid, and put it all into Bitcoin to make some quick returns? These people are receiving stimulus because they desperately need money because we're in a pandemic. Doesn't mean, even if 2-3% goes in, it doesn't mean the market's going to continuously go higher and higher and higher. And this is that same logic with the likes of Elon Musk with Tesla buying billions, and of course Grayscale, for example. These individuals, as I'll show you in this article right now, Grayscale will be cashing out Bitcoin to get back $250 million of its shares. That's because at present the GBTC premium is where it's spotted at a premium. It's trading at a big discount. So they're looking to sell some of their BTC to buy back up to $250 million of the Grayscale's Bitcoin-based stocks. So remember, Grayscale was in the headlines recently, all over the headlines. Everyone was like, Grayscale's bought more, Grayscale's bought more. Now they're starting to sell some, because they've made their money and they can easily make that money. The people say, why would Elon Musk buy at 50k? Why would Grayscale keep buying here? Because they're investing millions and billions, and every single increment of movement is more than what any of us are going to make, even if we hold this up to 200, 300, 400, 500,000. They do not need to be here for the long term. Now, selling 250 million shares, quite frankly, or selling 250 million BTC is hardly going to do much to the market. However, normally when these kind of articles come out, it's often a telltale sign, but it just kind of goes to show that some of the biggest buyers are still sellers. These people do not just physically buy. And that's why I just really want to kind of get this mindset out there in the world that we need to just be very level-headed. This is where so many people now are just believing it's going to be easy forever to continue making money for eternity. And that's why I have so much comfort in sitting back, because I know, and you guys know as well, even those who are buying here and have made some money, they're likely not going to sell. So by simply gradually taking your profits out of the market, you know whether this goes higher, you're still making money because you've left money in the market. You always want exposure in a market like this, but you also want to be capitalizing when the going gets good. This does not last forever. No matter what you believe or what YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram tells you, it doesn't happen forever. Nothing lasts forever, especially like this. The higher it goes, the larger it's going to break to the downside. But if you are taking some profits and capitalizing off your decision to invest, now, when your holdings decrease, you can dollar cost average the whole way down, even if it did go down. It's a beautiful buying opportunity. If you didn't dollar cost average, you wait for everything to come back down, then you buy again. Now, going over to XRP as well, just looking at this weekly over here, we can see we have been rejecting ever so nicely from that prior spike. Now, this is something I noticed that I wanted to share. First of all, these candles here, I still believe we are going down to 20 cents and lower, and potentially even dip into 15 to 10 cents. Now, everyone that kind of mocked me for doing this over here and then doing it again on the pump and dump, I'm hoping by now you can understand that I'm not doing this for FUD. I'm invested in the space. I'm doing this to make money and make everyone else money in the process. That's why there's no harm with pumps like this, because XRP is so manipulated. It is continuously manipulated and trapped in a tight range. These XRP in particular is just continuously controlled. And as we can see, we are just not breaking those highs really, but we do have promising confirmations here. If we do go back to that weekly, we can see that the high has been broken. So what could be happening here, even from a very basic perspective, is a trend line potentially coming into play, which would take us anywhere down over the next few weeks to potentially 20 cents or even a bit lower to around 15 cents or so. So this area is still a massive area of interest for me to come and fill in that liquidity and then continue this new bullish momentum higher. Because as we can see, we've been downtrending, we finally blew through the roof, we retested, we came back up, but yet again, using the analogy of the bulls and bears, the bulls broke through, the bears pushed them lower, they came back to the bears' fortress, the bears pushed them down yet again. No candle body closures above this level. Bitcoin, we do have candle closures above this level, but we haven't closed just yet on the daily. But XRP on a weekly has not even closed above, so that reduces the impact of the bullish momentum. So whilst there is a possibility, of course, for some downside movements to come or upside movements to come back again, we can see this whole area here, unless it's broken higher, there is no upside momentum coming just yet. And XRP has just been very, very quiet. That's why I haven't really been updating this, because there's not really much to say or do. We're not here to try and catch these small little movements here. We have made enough money. If you've been following us, you should hopefully see that from these decisions, I've made more than enough from a very small buy I done in March. So I don't need to be there continuously chasing the market or looking for a million different altcoins, because by playing the simplistic game, you can easily achieve more than what most people will do by simply just hodling. And again, just another perspective for those of you who are holding, there's a lot of money to be made. And we can easily see with a trend line here and some loads of different trend lines over here, they're all chaotic. That one's already been broken. This one hasn't been properly retested. There's a nice cross point here around 20 cents, and that's why I'm heavily fixated on this particular level. And then I believe when we go over to the likes of, also we've got Binance being investigated. Let's go to this quickly as well. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission is investigating Binance. The regulator wants to find out whether or not US citizens were able to trade derivatives on the exchange. Now, we've seen this already with BitMEX, and it's very likely people have been using VPNs. So we can see with potential grayscale selling, we've got Binance being investigated, and more importantly, the SEC overreaching to the fullest extent of the universe possibilities to apply pressure to Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larsen. As we can see, if any of you have seen this article already, they are now pushing for 8 years worth of information to their banks. They've actually contacted their banks, I believe, and they've sent the requests in to try and get 8 years worth of historical data on their payment informations and their financial information, which I don't know about you guys, the way I explained this to the innovation members yesterday was, when you're in an argument as a kid, especially as a teenager, and you're in an argument and you're losing, people just end up resorting to insulting someone's mum when they've got no other possible alternative to win that argument. And I just feel like the SEC incident is being manipulated. I even feel the SEC has a significant role in this XRP manipulation, because they have damaged so many investors with their actions, and quite frankly, they do not seem to have much backing right now, which is why they're starting to go into deeper alternatives and try and just grab any form of information they can to try and prove their bias was correct, and why they've opened this investigation and lawsuit in the first place. But looking at some of this stuff that's going on, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually this starts aiding the possibility of that 20 cents push. I personally feel the SEC lawsuit with XRP or Ripple is not going to end badly. Tether and Bitfinex got away with all of it with just a slap on the wrist and a fine. And we know they are printing money like no tomorrow. So if they can get away with it, I'm sure XRP should get away just fine. And at Ripple, as a company, Ripple Labs should be more than okay. What will likely happen is we'll probably see some FUD very soon that will aid the drive lower. And then we will all come clear as usual, as it normally tends to happen. China always wanting to ban Bitcoin. India were considering it recently, then they scrapped those plans. It always comes in a certain cycle. And as we can see a bit of that FUD, as much as I hate that word, as you guys know, it's picking up again. And looking at where BTC is now, this could all start piecing together nicely, which also brings me to the whole discussion of alt season that everyone keeps discussing. Now, it's very important to note, scrapping aside all of this, looking at where the majority of altcoins are, just going through some of the ones that I covered to the community or the ones that I've been holding for a while. Ether is now pumping, so Ether should easily start breaking through. It's lagging behind BTC a bit. Ether, first and foremost, trendline retest as well. We're looking to take out these highs, and we're going to keep our eyes peeled on $2,100. This could probably come through very, very soon if it doesn't reverse first. But look at this. There's also a little trend line here, so we could potentially be seeing, with the Fibonacci sequence as well, Ether coming back down to these levels first, around $1,760 or so, and then triggering its way up through the $2,000 region if it doesn't go straight up first. But we do, looking at how Ether mimics BTC quite drastically, we could be seeing that similar all-time high break as well, which again could be some short-term trickery. LTC almost exactly the same as BTC with those candle body closures and the bearish engulfing. Only difference is we haven't broken through just yet, but again, this could easily start coming through soon as well. There is a little foot, head and shoulders on the 4 hour at around $240, the shoulder head, potential shoulder forming there, but I do believe in a similar manner, this could be doing the same thing as well. And if we just plot as accurate of a trend line as we can in line with the others. This one's kind of holding from wick to the bodies to the wicks. It's kind of tapped this level already. So plotting an opposing fib, I doubt this will be too perfect, but we can see the 78.6 fib is there as well. So daily candle and weekly candle wise, if we start seeing closures below here, bigger telltale signs that something may be changing. But this is why we just want to keep waiting for those weeklies, get some telltale signs, not try and predict a top, but just look at what the market is proposing. And these bearish engulfing candles are proposing a lot, in my opinion. This one didn't engulf. The wick spikes lower, the wick spikes lower. The candle bodies did not break below the wicks. This one entirely annihilated the prior weekly bullish gain, annihilated the wick as well. So we can easily just pay attention to this now, as it may provide another telltale sign. But going back to BTC, or XRP, sorry. XRP, where it currently is at its lows in comparison to its highs, very far away from its all-time highs. ZRX, which is what I covered, hit the highs, didn't go the whole way, but it's around from the lows to the highs. It's nicely situated around the middle, and it likely will do upon a pullback, which I am waiting for around 30 cents. Now, obviously, with that additional $35,000 that we've been accumulating over here, so I've got the 150k on the side to put back into XRP if it does go back to 20 cents. But the $35,000 that's been accumulating here that I'm taking from the profits from the innovation group, whether that's Forex or some crypto trades, I'm just building up some profits over here as well with Bernie. And we're potentially going to invest this in ZRX next. If ZRX can come back down below 30 cents to 10 to 20 cents, beautiful investment opportunity. But look at where this is. Look at XLM, where it is in comparison to the all-time high. Look at BAT. This one's actually slowly breaking. Now, BAT was a beauty. I actually called BAT at 20 cents. For those of you who've been following me, I was saying this was a great time to start accumulating. And if we remained above this particular level here, we would see this easily do 100 to 150%. But this far outperformed what I expected. But that was a beautiful opportunity. I know a lot of you guys capitalized on that, and it's been great to see all of that come through as well. Now, ARK, one of the other ones I cover, again, nowhere near the all-time highs. IOTA, one of my other favorites, about barely even 50% of the all-time highs from the low to high. Syscoin, one of my other favorites, finally going for it, still nowhere near all-time highs. So to kind of finalize and go over the topic of alt season, let's just say BTC starts crashing. Let's just say we finally see a bear market come into play. If we just take into consideration where a lot of these altcoins are, like the ones I've just covered, XRP, very close to its original lows still, levels that it fails to break from. So if we see BTC pull back, it's very likely altcoins will pull back with them. This means the likes of ZRX has clear downside targets, XLM, clear downside targets around 10 cents, BAT all the way back to 20 cents if it doesn't continue higher. ARK, we're looking at 50 to anywhere down to around 20 cents. IOTA, we're looking at around 30 cents down to around 20 cents, maybe even 15 if we get lucky. Syscoin, we could easily come back down towards that 0.5 to 10 cents range. But just take into consideration, and we'll use XRP as a good example of this, because they all have lows that they're very close to, it's obviously not very likely that they're going to go, if BTC was to go to $20,000 or even lower, it doesn't necessarily mean that altcoins are going to break the lows of zero and go to like minus 10 as an example. But what it does potentially mean is when the BTC momentum potentially dies and everyone starts taking profits, a lot of these altcoins should go back and should find stability back at their original floors, which is essentially giving everyone, though again, another once in a lifetime opportunity, if they've missed out before, to wait for price to come back down to their lows, come back down here, BAT down here, ARK down there, not including some of the others I've covered, which we'll be covering in future videos as well, or you can see them in the app, the innovation app. Once these prices start coming back down to here, it's very likely they're going to find some stabilization, XRP included. And then when BTC potentially continues plummeting, those profits are going to start being shifted into these altcoins, which will now be massively undervalued once again, because they have very small room to fall, whereas BTC has huge room to fall. And remember, alt season hasn't even started yet. So when people ask me about all of these different altcoins that they're interested in, for me, they're all doing something very similar right now. And they're still although XRP is still a fairly valid buy compared to where it is at all-time highs, again, I'd rather buy XRP right now at 45 cents, knowing there's more money to be made because we haven't achieved the upside targets yet. BTC, you're just risking and risking and risking with no real upside target in mind. A lot of these altcoins have not broken all-time highs. So even if you were to just FOMO in, you still have a better opportunity of making more money and a much larger upside possibility. Whereas when you're going off something with no upside target in mind, no historical data, you're basically gambling at this point. Doesn't matter what they're telling you, doesn't matter what you're hearing or reading. The fact of the matter is we have proof here of prior targets where prices have never gone back to, whilst this is breaking highs and highs and highs. So I feel when we do potentially see this alt season, if BTC can crash, we could see all of these alts very temporarily come back down to their bottom, which is what I'm hoping for with XRP in particular, some of the other altcoins as well. Then those profits will slowly be shifted into altcoins where, remember, when they make money from one cycle, they crash the other, they make money, they crash the other, they make money, they crash the other. But institutions and whales do not stop there. They do not just take their profits and say, okay, that's me done. They shift it over to the next investment and the next profitable opportunity, which is exactly why I've taken profits, because when the next, I've capitalized off the profitable opportunity that I saw, and when the next one potentially comes, I have the capital ready to invest. So I think alt season is going to be truly phenomenal, but I would love to try and get on board with that. I'm happy to sit on the side. I don't care if people say I've missed out on this or that because it's going higher and higher and higher. I have my investments in place. I have my altcoins in place, but I've also still taken some profits off the table. So I win regardless. The only difference is the majority of people are refusing to take profits because they're consumed by greed and they want more and more. But I can assure you, if you've made money or you're making money, turning those unrealized gains into realized gains is going to be the best decision you've ever made. As long as you are still leaving exposure in the market to continue going up, if price continues going up, you have now given yourself a win-win situation. Do not be consumed by greed. Do not be blinded by everlasting profits. Do not be blinded by moon. If you are making money and you are in profit, you are receiving 50, 20, 100% profit returns. When no other market is doing that really, in a global pandemic, you are succeeding and you need to be capitalizing off that success. I hope this has been understood, but I'm going to start being more frequent now on the market update side. I know because I've just been sitting back waiting really for some form of correction, I've been quiet. But I'm going to start doing some more breakdowns now, guys, keeping you updated, because remember, if it does continue going higher, there is still so much money to be made riding the trend regardless. As you guys know, in the innovation community, 2-3 times a week now, I'm going to be introducing live intraday and scalping trading sessions for BTC, gold and US oil. So even though we are waiting for BTC to drop and everything else to drop, we're going to be looking at day trading, intraday trading, and growing our profits to then capitalize on the crypto market even further. All of the Forex trades I take, all of the crypto intraday trades I take, or gold or whatever it may be, commodity wise, those profits I am slowly building and growing in anticipation of a next market bearish cycle. So then when everyone who hasn't taken profits is riding all the way back in drawdown with no profits taken, I am looking to grow my fiat holdings as much as possible to buy the hell out of this market in the next correction, wherever that may be. Just because you may not be on board now, you can feel like you're missing out, but I assure you, the ones that will be missing out are the ones that are not looking to capitalize and take any profits off the table in any way whatsoever. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'll do a members market breakdown later this evening as well, and looking forward to start blasting you all with some more content, crypto and Forex wise, for Bernie, of course. Anything you guys want, if you, any particular kind of content, any coins you want invested in or want looking at, for example, please drop a comment, leave a like, subscribe as always, and we will go through the comments and start making some more content tailored to you guys specifically as well. So have a great weekend, guys, and catch up in the next video if I do not see you in the Innovation Markets app.